This podcast, The Good, the Bad and the Vagina, is brought to you by me, Tess, a retired midwife, birth keeper, mother and sovereign woman. The views shared are my own and those of my guests. If something doesn't resonate, release it. It's not meant to upset or offend. If you feel discomfort, please seek support for your own healing. If you don't like what you hear, don't listen. This space honours truth, freedom and expression, protected under the rights to free speech. Welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Vagina. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Vagina. It's New Year's Eve and I just wanted to come on and sort of round up and have a little bit of reflection over the year and what's gone on for me in my journey, in my life and just in my business. As most of you are aware, I ended last year leaving the NHS and actually didn't quite comprehend how much working within the field of the NHS had impacted on me. I knew it was taking its toll on me emotionally and physically, but it wasn't until I actually left that I realised how impactful the whole of that experience had been for me. And so I entered into 2025 in a little bit of a high in many ways, feeling an element of freedom around where I'd been and what I'd done and my new adventures. But I kind of wasn't really prepared for how much I was going to learn over the year, how big and impactful, and how much shedding I was going to have to do. So I started January having set up Birth from Within as a CIC at the end of December, and I started the new year with this new adventure thinking I need to get out there and really get my business head on and start doing business stuff. So I started January in earnest with networking, and in networking events you go along and you have a minute to stand up and say who you are, what you're about, what your business is about. And I can remember going to my first networking meeting, and it was the Torbay breakfast business networking held at the Redcliffe Hotel. And I went there and I was quite nervous, obviously. It's a new thing. I didn't know quite what to expect. And I realised that everybody stands up and says this minute. So when it came to me, I kind of stood up and was like, Tess, I'm a midwife. I provide antenatal classes and education and support groups. And I just realised that I am a virgin in business, but an expert in vaginas. And that became my handle. And it was a brilliant way to start my networking journey because it meant everybody took notice of me. And so I felt at that point that I had just conceived Birth from Within. And my journey has been a bit like a pregnancy. And anybody who's following me on any of my social medias, that's kind of the place where I've been talking about being in this pregnancy and giving birth. And it literally has felt like a pregnancy journey for me. The first sort of 12 weeks of me on this new adventure was a bit like that first trimester of pregnancy where you're really, really excited, but you're really unsure of what's going to unfold and how it's all going to be. So I felt quite nauseous and anxious at times about where I was on my journey. I was very excited and wanted to tell people, but was also very reserved because I didn't feel I had the knowledge or the confidence based around business to be able to step into my power with it. But I was so fortunate at those networking meetings because I've met some wonderful people along on that journey who have literally scooped me up and held me and guided me in little ways along on my journey. Amy, who came on to one of the podcasts called The Summer Sisters, I met her at my first networking meeting. And I think she liked my handles. Being a virgin at business and an expert in vaginas became a bit of a handle for me in my networking meetings. So she took quite a shine to me and warmed to me, and we linked quite a bit at the meetings together. And she has always been so warm and welcoming and lovely to me. And I'm really I can't thank her enough for how she's helped me along on my journey throughout the year. I then also met, obviously, James Twigger, who is a bit locally known as quite an elusive person, but again, he's been giving me some little coaching sessions, which have been invaluable. And he's always so keen to build me up and give me the confidence to do the things that I want to do, which is been so lovely. I met the gorgeous Chris Fleet. He opened his doors at the Devon Clinic for me and said that I could run my support groups there, which I've been doing. The support groups that I run, as you all know, are the baby loss group, the birth trauma group, a dad's space, like a dad's group, and mental wellbeing in pregnancy. I also am able to meet women there on a one-to-one basis, which has been really, really lovely, really beautiful space. Because Chris took me under his wing, I've been supporting him on his journey too. And I joined him and we did the Three Peaks charity walk in, I think it was June or July this year. So January, February, March were very much that first trimester of pregnancy, the very sick feeling, the very nauseous feeling, the excitement. Looking back and reflecting, I wished I was able to, right from the very beginning, share that this is where I'm at and really sing it from the rooftops. But there was an element of me feeling a bit hesitant about doing that. And I think that was based on the tail end of my experience within the NHS, how much that had shattered my confidence in my own beliefs, in my own belief system of myself. So I was still really, this year has been really much healing and shedding a lot of those old patterns and habits and things that I had gathered. Heading into February, March and April time, and my mum's spaces, I was really enjoying them. They were being held in a really nice space and they were gathering a bit of momentum. And one of the girls within the group wanted to drop in some mindfulness into the sessions, which I encouraged and support her to do. So that was nice. And it was nice to watch her flourish. And now she's flourishing with her little business. And it was a bit of a challenge as well, because in the process of me learning about the business, understanding about business steps, I learned some really valuable lessons about where you share and who you share your journeys with. That became apparent in and around having to move my rooms from the space that I was in, when I was tiptoeing out and trying to adventure further afield other than the sort of the space that I'd already created. The surprising reactions from people was really alarming to me. And I have to say I took quite a lot of it really personally, but looking back and reflecting, actually, it was their stuff and not mine. And again, I think that's the tail-ended trauma from working within the NHS, where they claim it's not a blame culture, but that's exactly what they do, is go around blaming people rather than taking any accountability for their role within it. They're so quick to blame an individual so that they don't have any accountability. So that was been a really massive, informative learning experience for me that happened in those sort of first 3 to 4 months. And it was painful. It was, I'm not going to lie, it was really hurtful at times and really left me sometimes doubting whether this was actually the course and the journey that I was really meant to go on. And having to nurture wounds that have been opened up so many times in the past is really difficult, because you feel that you are moving on and moving forward with your life. And then these little reminders come back and go, hang on a minute, there's still a little bit here that you haven't quite dealt with. So I got through those times, those learning times, not actually understanding possibly or realizing that that's actually what they were just massive learning curves again on my journey. And then I decided that I was going to move the space where I was holding mum's space, because I felt that was probably the best way forward for me to re-establish myself. And I found a really, really nice place where I was holding space. And it was just beautiful because we looked out on the sea. We had options of staying indoors or outdoors. And that was really nice. As I'm then heading a little bit further into the year, I'm healing somewhat. And a very, very, very dear friend who had had a horrendous time within the NHS and had a really, really poor outcome, and was one of the people. She came along to one of my birth trauma sort of groups, and I supported her through some of a really traumatic time. And we developed a really close friendship. Informed me she was pregnant again, and it was just the best news that anybody could have received for her. It was just, she was really anxious and nervous, and I did a lot of healing with her, a lot of trauma work. I did Reiki on her, which was really, really beautiful, supported her through her journey of her pregnancy. And it was really, really difficult for her. It really was, moving into a space where she was going to have to use a service that she had a lot of uncomfortableness using, but needed to use this because of what had previously happened, albeit that she went to a different unit to have her care. And I think that made a massive difference, and giving her the voice and supporting her to make those choices. I was really proud and happy that I was able to give her a pregnancy that was, even though I wasn't within the system itself, but give her some hope, joy, and encouragement along on that pregnancy journey so that she was able to make choices to keep herself safe. And that was beautiful. She went on that pregnancy journey and I tottered along beside her. It was a really nice thing to be able to do. And I think it was on the development of that pregnancy and the healing had happened. And I also had this networking people of business around me, where I then made a conscious choice that I was going to be going to support women giving birth again, but not as a midwife. And in order for me to do that, not as a midwife, I had to relinquish my PIN. And I didn't want to do it as a midwife because I realised very, very quickly in the short period of time of leaving the NHS and relinquishing my PIN that the NMC, the Nursing and Midwifery Council, although they proclaim they're there to protect women, they're not there to protect the women. They are there to protect the NHS. And what I have found and witnessed with lots of independent midwives, that if they are at a birth experience and the outcome is not so great, they get suspended and can't work at all. And I didn't want to be put in that position. And I also didn't want to be in a position where I was again working against constraints and restrictions that didn't align with my core values. So for me, if a woman doesn't want to be monitored during her labour, then I think then that's absolutely fine. She doesn't need to be monitored. It's her choice. And I would wholeheartedly support her in that choice and decision. If I had done that as an independent midwife and the outcome had been poor, then there would have been a suspension put on to my PIN pending an investigation. Now, in a hospital, if the outcome is poor, there's no suspension put on a midwife whilst pending an investigation. They continue to work. And so the discrepancy in that left me feeling quite vulnerable. And so that's why I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to continue as a midwife. There was lots of other things. There was a previous interim head of midwifery at a previous unit that I'd worked at where I had put in a grievance, and the interim head of midwifery spoke to me and said she agreed with my grievance. She said, absolutely 100%. What you've been through, I stand by you 100%, and I will support you rectifying it. And she did. She was brilliant. But what she said to me was, don't let midwifery define you. And I was allowing midwifery to define me as a person. And actually, once I had that realization that that isn't who I am, I am gifted at supporting women in birth. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I do have an amazing gift where I can hold space for women, but midwifery was inhibiting me to be able to flourish to the full capacity of that joy that I can bring to that birthing arena. And so going into sort of spring and summer, there was an element of grief around relinquishing my pin. It was like the grief of a loss of a loved one, a grief of a loss of my identity in many ways, even though I had accepted that I shouldn't allow it to define me. It was a massive definitive part of me for a big chunk of my life. When I became a midwife to give birth back to women because, as you know, Julia Bennett given birth back to me because of all the medical stuff with the ovarian cancer and declining to have chemo and things, and me having home birth after like quite an intensive obstetric driven pregnancy. To be able to do that and feel empowered and loved and nurtured enough to do that, that's why I became a midwife, and that's what I wanted to give back to women. And I thought that the best way to do that was within the NHS, even though I did leave and become an independent midwife for a period of time. The whole infrastructure of how maternity care is now provided has changed so much from when I first started my training. So to be leaving that, shedding that identity of me, was again part of a process like on a pregnancy, where you know who you are as the woman before, and then you become pregnant and you have no idea who you are going to be as a mother. And so on that pregnancy journey, there's so many beautiful highs about that experience. When you then tell everybody and everybody celebrates that, and you've got this growing bump, and then you can start feeling movements and look pregnant. I'm doing all the right things to maintain my pregnancy. I'm eating well, I'm resting, I'm working as hard as I need to, but not too hard. I'm eating wholesome foods, and I'm doing all of the right things to maintain this pregnancy really well. And that's what I was doing, all of those really good things. But there was this big raw emotion that was floating around, like in a pregnancy, that you have no control over it. So some days I was waking up with such joy in my heart about what I was doing and the journey I was on. And then there was other days I was waking up and it was so difficult to get motivated and to do what I needed to do, or there was a growth spurt going on and I was just so tired. I then made the conscious decision that I was going to be doing the birth arena. I'd given up my pin and I was going to do it as a doula or birth keeper or birth guardian, which is a name that I really love holding around me. I still use the word doula on the basis that that's a familiar word for everybody else. And that's why I use it, because people know what a doula is. Whereas a birth guardian, they'll go, what's that? It's the same thing. They're just words. They're just names. It's just me being my authentic self, helping women have their babies. And so then I started getting women inquiring about it, doing a lot of pregnancy support with women, doing consultations, helping women having their babies. And it's just starting to really begin to flourish. And we'll come to that in a little while. So then I head into the summer and I'm still doing lots of networking stuff. I'm doing lots of shows, lots of talks, standing up, telling people about what I'm offering, really gathering my voice a lot more, planning what I'm going to do, working out where I'm going to go, feeling some days are so busy. At this point, I discover that one of the biggest attributes that you need to have on a business is your social media. Guess who didn't really have any social media? Me. So I went on to social media and I didn't realize how important or needed or necessity. There's a word in there that would probably fit it a little bit more accurately. But the social media aspect of it is something that's integral now in lots of business. And I didn't really have any social stuff. So I did start doing more social media stuff. And that was a challenge because for all of those people who know me really well, me and technology are not really favourable. I tend to put glitches in systems very quickly. I've wiped out NHS systems for whole weekends just by pressing a button. And so that in itself was really difficult for me learning. I didn't understand the difference, and I'm still not 100% sure on this, but I didn't really understand the difference between a reel, a post, and a story. Now, I know the stories are the little things that go up for like 30 seconds and they only last for 24 hours. Got that. Know how to do them. Quite chuffed with them. I'm still not quite sure what the difference between a post and a reel is, but I'm going with it. But I went from having absolutely zero followers to having 1,000 plus now, and I'm on the trajectory of up. And it's not about how many people are following you, it's about getting the message out to the people that want to hear what I have to say. What I do is I pull one of my cards, the cards that I've made. I have these cards. These were my original cards. I love that picture. Julie Davis, a really dear old friend of mine, drew these. She drew that picture for me. I made these cards. They've just got different names on them, like changes and music and support. They have a little summary on them, and you can go into the book and read a little bit more, bit deeper meaning. And then my daughter, Amber, when she was pregnant, went, "Mum, you need to revamp them." And I came up with these shorter, snappier versions. I sell these on my website. They are brilliant. And I give them to every woman that I do my birth guardian doulaing work with. And the feedback I'm having from them is really amazing. I'm really chuffed that I've managed to be able to promote myself through these. And on my social media, this is what I do is I pull a card and then I read it out. And at the end of this session, I'm going to do one to end the reflection of the whole year. Heading into sort of the summer months, I was training for the Three Peaks walk, which was 26 miles in 12 hours. I think that's what it was. The Three Peaks in Yorkshire. And I was doing that to support the Devon Clinic because Chris was supporting me, Chris Fleet. We were raising money and I was doing lots of training for that. I did a big walk from my house in Torquay to Brixham and back again. And I did that on the day where the air show was on. So I saw all the red arrows coming over and it was just so lovely having that like experience and taking lots of photos and doing cars. I had a swim in the sea a couple of times on the way there. I just had an amazing day and experience in that training. I then walked from my house to Shoulden and back again. And again, that was just a really, really fabulous experience. It was sunny and I was walking and there were all these walkers walking past me. I was just enjoying my time. And I kept thinking, look at all them with their long trousers on and their long sleeves. And I had a pair of shorts on, a little top, little t-shirt top. And when I got home, I realised why they wore long trousers and long sleeves, because you get bitten a lot. And my legs were eaten alive by horseflies. It was like horrible. I had massive, great big whelks and lots of little midgy bites as well. So that was a lesson learned for me. So yeah, going into sort of June and July, things were beginning to pick up. Women were getting in contact with me. I was having a lot more one-to-one consultations and my support groups were still there running in the background and I was loving doing that. And then I head into the summer months with a huge amount of optimism, but also a huge amount of realization that actually running your own business is a really lonely thing to do, because when you are in an organization, you do have a lot of comrades around you, companions and people who you can get support from, who can talk to you, who can encourage you. Yes, there is also that toxic stuff that can go on in great big organizations. And I wasn't having the toxicity that I was experiencing within an organization, but I realized how lonely it was. there wasn't anybody to pop me up and tell me how well I was doing. And the self-doubt is huge. And again, relating that to a pregnancy, because obviously I was on this pregnancy journey and I was thinking maybe I'm now about 8 months, 9 months into my pregnancy. It was quite overwhelming at times. And there's a phenomenon known as the brick wall of labour, where pregnant women can only really focus on the labour part. They can't actually imagine life beyond the labour. And I think I had hit this because I was referring to my business as pregnancy. I'd hit sort of like September time thinking, I don't know what's going to happen now. Is this going to be all right? All my savings have gone. I've tried to sustain a business. I'm doing the best that I can. But as any new business, it starts off, it is very barren in the beginning. You know, nobody can set up a business and then expect to be earning £100,000 a year. It just doesn't work like that. And then, of course, then you fall in your own head and all the self-doubts kick in. And so it felt to me like that very last bit where you're in your pregnancy and you're overdue and all of the risk factors that they start talking to you about all start coming in. And alongside that was my husband, Jai, was really poorly. He had peritonitis and was taking him to hospital with burst appendix. And then they sent him home and he had peritonitis and he was really poorly. He should never have gone home, ever. I mean, he was at home for about 4 hours, 5 hours, and I had to take him back. I thought he was going to die. I had to leave the hospital because I thought he was going to die. And I was so triggered by everything else that had happened and experienced there that I felt bad. I said to him, I can't sit here and watch you die. I've got to go. And I went to the nurse, I can't stay and watch him die because of a mistake that you've made. And that was tough. That was tough. It was tough for him. It was tough for the kids. It was tough for me. That was a journey to get through. But again, we got through it. And I do believe that that was me bursting through the birth canal with my business, possibly not having the birth that I wanted, but having to reflect and accept it was the birth I had. And I had to come to terms and understand all of that. Chris Fleet, thankfully, he understood that I'd got into a trauma trigger loop. So he did some work with me, which was incredible. So I am advising anybody, if you do need any support or help, the Devon Clinic does affordable counselling for people, and it has all sorts of therapies in there. It has a therapy that you can access, and some of them do stuff online. But if you can go, and if they do hypnosis, they do this trauma treatment, all sorts of stuff. And I would highly recommend, if you need to get hold of anyone, to go there first, because they are incredible. And because it's a CIC, it's affordable. So instead of having to pay £90 to speak to a counsellor, it can be subsidised to as cheap as £15. So you're just paying for the room. What happens is you pay for the room hire and then Chris's CIC will pay for the counsellor. Just putting it out there. What a gift. What a gift for people who are in need, because not everybody can afford the counselling that they really require. Anyway. So that had happened. And then after my little healing, the most exciting thing happened to me in September. I swam with a dolphin. I did not just swam with a dolphin. I had the most incredible interaction with this dolphin for about 15 minutes. I was at Oddicombe in Torquay and I swam my usual route. I swam out. And then I swim across to Babacombe, and then I swim back into Oddicombe again. So I'd swim out, and then I was swimming across to Babacombe, and there was a helicopter. And I was feeling a little bit sad about this helicopter because it inevitably meant that somebody had either slipped or decided that they wanted to jump over the cliff. And so there was this helicopter hovering, trying to rescue somebody. And I can remember feeling really sad about that. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was this plop in front of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a dolphin. There was a dolphin. And I saw this dolphin swimming off. And I was like, oh, I've just swam so close to a dolphin. How exciting is this? I was so happy. And then the next thing I know, it come back round and swam in front of me. And then it swam under me and it nudged me on my thigh. And I was like, oh, and then it jumped up in front of me and I was like, oh, hello. And we were just, honestly, this dolphin, it came under my legs. I held onto its fin and we had a little swim together. It kept jumping in front of me, like doing figures of 8. It came under my arm. At one point, it was here. There was somebody, there's a walkway between Oddicombe and Barbican Beach that you can walk. And there was somebody walking there who filmed it. And then they gave me, I think they gave me something in total like 8 minutes, like a 4-minute, a 2-minute, and then another 2-minute video. And I did put up online a little like 20-second clip of it. I didn't want to bore everybody with the whole thing because I don't think anybody would be as excited as I was from the whole thing. And there were people on the shore who thought possibly that the dolphin may be getting a little overzealous with me. It was a big dolphin. And because of the size of it and the level of interaction it was, I had already started swimming back into the shore because I knew it was a big animal. And if it decided that it didn't like me, it would win. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, so I started to swim back in, and the people on the shore sent out a couple of paddle boarders just to check that I was all right. And the person on the paddleboard was so overwhelmed by how close this dolphin was and how beautiful it was. They kept taking like little videos and pictures, which was just awesome. And as I swam back in to the shore and I managed to then sort of touch my feet down, the dolphin then swam off. And there were other people swimming in the sea at the time, but it didn't interact with them to the level that it interacted with me. It swam past them a couple of times, but not like coming in between their legs and touching them and swimming around them and just wanting to really be playful. And as I got to step out of the water, I looked to the side of me and there was a little seal there, like looking as if to say, what's all the fuss? It was a profound moment of my life. It really was. And it's something when I sit and reflect in a moment and I think of that interaction, it really fills my heart with joy. Like when I reflect on my children's births and things, I think that was like a real healing moment for me where I went through this gateway. Okay, we're heading into autumn now. We've got stuff to do and we need to really crack on. And then women have started engaging quite significantly with my birth keeping service, which has been amazing. And I'm just so happy in my happy place, in my happy space when I'm with these women and their partners or husbands, supporting them on their birth journeys, imparting all the information that I can to empower them, to affirm their thoughts, to listen to their ideas about how they want to do it and how vast and different they are. And it's just been the most beautiful, joyous thing that's happened. But I also, having had that dolphin experience, then decided that I would set up the good, the bad, and the vagina because I thought everybody has a story to talk about birth. Everybody should be able to share their birth. I know a lot of podcasts are about rich and famous people. This isn't about rich and famous people. This is about us as women and men. If they want to come on, they're part of this journey as well, to come on and talk about the amazing, brilliant, good things in birth. Some of the things that are not so brilliant about birth, but it's all about the vagina, isn't it? All about the power that the women hold within the vagina. And that's why I've named it The Good, the Bad, and the Vagina. And I have loved the 9 podcasts that I've put out. I've loved every single one of them. And it's been a real triumph for me to be coming to the end of my year where I am now. When I was sitting in sort of November time, around November time, I was thinking, oh gosh, maybe I haven't achieved that much this year. But now I'm here and I'm reflecting back over my year. I have achieved so much. I have also in November and December, started making my gift boxes. In my gift boxes, there is a pack of cards. It has a bracelet, which I have designed a little card that goes with the bracelet, explaining what the stones represent and why to wear it. You can wear it in your pregnancy, you can wear it for your labour, because it's all to do with positive energies, but most beneficial it's for when you're breastfeeding, so you know which boob you fed on last. These beautiful spritzers for labour, massively fell in love with the doTERRA oils, and that's what these oils and all these boxes are based on. This spritzer has got bergamot and water in it, and so you spray it during your labour, and the bergamot is a real energy refreshing. These are the soaps. There are 3 various soaps that I do. The soaps are called Lunar soaps, and they have that's Mother's Embrace, and it's got lavender, lemon, and frankincense. The others have got geranium, wild orange, and yang yang in. And then there's a peppermint and lemon and bergamot. The essential oils that are in them are all to do with raising your energies and holding your energies. And I've got a massage oil here, and this is called the Labour of Love, and it's got clary sage and geranium and wild orange and a bit of lavender. Then there's the Guardian oil, which is for dads, that when they're in the labour room, they can have a rub of this oil on them and raise their protection energies. And then the Honor Blend, which is for you during your pregnancy, and then a Lullaby blend, which is for baby massaging and mums for afterwards. I've done my boxes. I have achieved so much in my pregnancy journey, and I didn't realise how much I'd achieved until I sat here reflecting over it. So I've got my support groups, I've got my classes, I do some online workshops, like little webinars, every now and again, little free webinars. I've got my mum's space and my dad's space, my support groups, lots and lots of networking, my cards, my gift boxes. I've got the women that I'm now being their birth guardian with, which is incredible. And I'm going to tell you about something that happened yesterday in a minute. And I've earned the good, the bad, and the vagina. And I'm loving this, doing the conversations with women, the variety that I've had on. I know I've only had 9, but I've enjoyed every single one of them. And I listen to them a lot afterwards because I have to edit it. But I've absolutely flourished and loved doing the good, the bad, and the vagina. And I'm really hoping that this is going to be a massive trajectory for me in 2026, along with all the other things. My big wish for 2026 is to have my own space. So that's ideally what I want, is to have a space where it's all set up and women can just come in, have a cup of coffee, have a chat, have a meet. I can hold some circles, I can hold my groups, I can have my oils around for to share, and I can hold one-to-one private consultations there, and just generally have this space that's going to be really reflective of who and what I am on my journey. But the best thing that's happened to me, that's ending my 2025 on a real high, which is really affirming to me that I am definitely on the right path, is yesterday was the most incredible birth with one of my mums. What made it so incredible was that she had planned to have a home birth. That was what her desire was. She didn't really particularly like hospitals. We'd had lots of talks in and around on her journey about, we have to be realistic, that we have to plan from eventuality if this is what we desire, but we're prepared for anything up to here, and anything in between can happen. So we'd had a lot of talk in and around that. And I have to say, having the birth experience with her yesterday, I truly believe I am such amazing value for money. I really believe that as a whole unit of us all working together, it was the most incredible experience. She started labouring on and off a little bit, and so we talked about it being positional and it could go on for a few days, and I kind of set her expectation of maybe a New Year's Eve baby, and she'd been niggling for a few days. Anyway, she carried on laboured a little bit on and off, and then I think during the night, things started to heat up. She didn't contact me during the night. She managed herself perfectly well at home. When it got to the 7-ish in the morning, I had a meeting, a weird meeting at 7, between 7 and 8 o'clock. I'd already informed her that I'd got this meeting to go to, but if she needed me, I'd cancel it. I was at this meeting, and she then at 7 o'clock had a bit of a bleed. And I think it kind of upset her, quite rightly so. She rang the hospital, and the hospital said, well, you need to come in and we need to check you out. Reluctantly, she started gathering all the bits and pieces and rang me. I didn't get the call immediately, but as soon as I looked at my phone and saw that I had a missed call, I rung her straight back. And she said, oh, I've had this bleed. And I asked lots of questions, and what I was hearing wasn't a bleed. For me, it was a heavy red show, which for me was explaining that it was potentially her labour was starting, but she had had so many doubts and fears put into her. And I get that whenever any woman sees bright red blood when you're pregnant, it's not right. You go into this panic mode. Lots and lots and lots of PV bleeding, per vagina bleeding. Nothing happens as a result of it. It's just insignificant. There's a lot of capillaries in and around your cervix, and any friction and movement on that can cause them to burst. So 99.9% of PV bleeds, absolutely, they're harmless. But occasionally there is this small risk, and it's the risk that gets then fear factored into every decision making that you make. I said to her, it's fine, you're there, I'll meet you at the hospital. I went straight to the hospital and I met her. She, bless her, she did look a bit forlorn and a bit uncomfortable with where she was and what was going on. And the midwife was lovely. Don't get me wrong, she was really lovely, but it was quite an interesting observation. Her partner was really struggling with the whole thing because he was scared and worried, and understandable. I think he was equally as relieved to see me as she was. So went in, managed to calm her down, get her back in a rhythm of her breathing and doing all that she needed to do. And the CTG was fine, and all her observations were fine, and there was no major concerns. But they didn't want her to go home. They were like, we don't want you to go home. We're not going to. And they wouldn't have supported her, to be fair, in a home birth at that point. They would have made excuses for that not to be a possibility. And it was interesting watching the midwife, who was lovely, coming in with all the different angles and ways of trying to get conformity in a very gentle, kind way. All of her conversations, all of them, all went back to the risk is, and the risk is, and the risk is. And every time she said that, I felt like it was like a teaspoon of fear being fed into this woman's mouth. She went out of the room and we sort of did the brain work, the benefits, risks, intuition, alternatives, and doing nothing. We talked a lot about that. She said she didn't want to be examined. When she said that she didn't want to have a vaginal examination, the whole conversation was, well, we don't know where you are without a vaginal examination. We don't know what's going on. We can't make a plan if you don't know. And it was all that, again, doubting her abilities. Anyway, I think once she calmed down, having me there, her labour really regulated. She went from being quite irregular when I first went in to having these contractions like this. She said to me, I don't think I'm going to make it home. And I went, but that's okay. We had a big conversation around, look, you don't get badges for having a baby at home. What you do get rewarded with is making the right choices in your birth journey that work for you, the things that keep you the safest. And if you want to go home, then we're happy, we can go home, everything's fine. If you don't think you're going to make it home, then you have to think about whether or not you're going to birth your baby in the car. Are you going to get home and then be worried that you're at home because you've been in here and you've had all this sort of experience here? Or could you go into a labour ward and make it your space and still have control? Because it's about the control over your options and choices. And she said, I don't think I'm going to get home. I don't think I'm going to make it. And I said, that's okay then. So then what we can do is we can work with the tools that we've got here in front of us, which could be your own space in your own room, Do you want to be monitored? Do you want to have a VE? Do you want to have observations? What do you want? What don't you want? Make your choices based in and around that. And so she said to the midwife, I'm going to stay. I don't want to be examined now. So the midwife was like, okay, that's fine. We'll take you out of the room. Took us round to the labour ward, got in, settled down. In comes this other midwife who, to me, beautiful woman, lovely woman, obstetric nurse. So already I'm looking at the array of the first midwife was probably, she was cusping on obstetric nursing. This one was an obstetric nurse, absolutely no doubt about it. When we got in, she started saying, I want to put you on the monitor. And my lady was like, no, I don't want to go on the monitor. And then she's like, well, will you let me listen in every 15 minutes? And she was like, probably not every 15 minutes. I then said, I think my lady would like to just let you know when she would like something. And she got really arsy with me. She went, I would like to talk to her myself so that I can ascertain what's going on. And the other thing that she said, which was really interesting, is I know that you've told my colleague all of this, but I need, from a professional point of view, to hear it all myself so I can understand that you understand everything. And I went, well, that's what handovers are for. She went out the room for something, and then we had a bit of a prep talk, and I said, I think what you're going to have to do is say to this midwife, I'm an intelligent woman. I understand all the care that you wish to put in place for me to reassure you that all is okay. But when I need the reassurance, then I will ask for all of those elements of care if I want them. But other than that, I don't keep offering them to me. And she did. The woman was so amazing. She said in the most kindest, beautiful way, exactly that. Basically, I don't want you to keep offering me anything. I'm an intelligent woman. I've heard everything that you've said. And if I want reassuring, then I'll ask for it. And that's how the birth went. It was incredible. She laboured. I spoke to the woman a lot, saying there are 2 points when women go into hospital. One of them is when their labour establishes, which is about 4 centimetres, and one is about around 7 to 8 centimetres when they kind of head into that latter part of their labour. They're the 2 points that women either want to go into hospital, want to go home, or want to have pain relief. You just need to work your way through those. So I reckon when she went to hospital, having had that show, that heavy show, that was her labour establishing. Because then a few hours later, she then said, I don't know where I'm at. I really want to know what's going on. Can you examine me? I mean, the midwife jumped out of her chair to do this examination. She was so fast. She examined her anyway. She was like 7 centimetres. And I was like in my head thinking, I knew you were going to be 7 centimetres. How exciting is this? Since that had happened, after a little while, I'm going to go and get a quick sandwich because I thought, I know what's going to happen now. She's going to want to start pushing and I haven't eaten any breakfast. So I need to make sure that I'm well nurtured. Me and this woman and our level of eye contact for this labour was incredible. And it really highlights the gift that I have supporting women in that space, getting them through that where they feel like they can't do it anymore. So anyway, I said, I'm going to go get a quick sandwich. I'm going to be 20 minutes. So I went off, came back. Guess what? She was on the monitor. When I'd gone, that midwife went on at her, put back on the monitor. What a valuable tool is a doula or a birth keeper or a birth guardian in a birth arena then. Because in the space of 20 minutes that I'd gone, I'd come back and this woman was on the monitor. And I was like, okay. And apparently she'd got the doctor in whilst I was gone. So after a few minutes of looking at this beautiful, beautiful CTG monitoring, I may add, there was a lot of loss of contact, which would be saying this baby's descending further down. But it was uncomfortable, and I could see that the woman was uncomfortable. And I sort of went, do you want to go for a wee? And she went, not really. And I said, I think it might be worth trying to have a wee. And she went, oh, okay. So we totter off into the toilet. How are you doing? how are you feeling about the monitoring? She went, I don't want it on. And I said, you know, you don't need it on. I said, it's an absolutely beautiful CTG. There's loads of variability, da, 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 da. It's really reassuring. They're not going to offer to take you off it. They won't. So if it's not something that you want to do, then it's something you're going to have to ask for. First out of this bathroom door, went, can you take this off me? And that was it. She had the monitor off. She was back up on all fours on the bed. I was in this little space with her. We were just breathing, so much eye contact. I honestly, literally, her and I were on another plane. There was these things going on in this room around us, but her and I were greeting in her spirit with love and joy. And it was, there aren't any words that I can describe the moment of what I felt, the guides and the space and the place and the beauty of it all. It was like swimming with the dolphins. It is my gift. It is my space. It is my happy place. And yeah, and then, I don't know, 20 minutes of bearing down, because I wouldn't even say it was any level of pushing. She birthed this baby beautifully. 8 pound, 8 ounces, intact, incredible, amazing. Baby came out screaming. She had a physiological third stage, a little whiff of clarisage, and the placenta came out. 200 ml loss, blood loss, baby fed. Honestly, it has ended my year on such a beautiful high. It's ended my year on a journey, affirming that I am definitely on the right journey. And although the year has been some real highs and lows and shedding of people within my life that I didn't think were going to be leaving my life, that I thought they were branches rather than twigs or leaves. Meeting people who I thought were one thing and that presented actually weren't what I thought they were on my initial meeting with them. Lots of this confusion, highs and lows, starting on a journey that I didn't really know where it was going to go, and then ending it with this most incredible birth experience of this woman going into that arena, but holding her own power. And we spoke about it today, about her whole birthing journey. Her decision to stay in that hospital was the right thing to do, because I think had she gone home, in the back of her head were all of those teaspoons of doubt that had been fed to her. But actually going into that arena where it wasn't her space, but holding her own power in that space, and me being her guardian of that power, because I guarded her power. I enabled her to be able to say, I don't want this and I don't want that. It's been awesome. It was so honourable and such a beautiful thing. And all those women that are due to be birthing their babies, I've got 2 or 3 coming up in January. All of those births, I'm so, so excited about. And the women that I've got booked for further on in the year, I'm so happy that these women are now coming to me, because I'm honoured to be sharing their journeys with them. And I'm looking forward to being in those spaces and helping those women and sharing their journeys. And it just fills my heart with joy, and I just feel blessed. So that's been my incredible 2025. It has absolutely been a year of shedding, getting rid of old wounds, healing stuff, going through journeys that have been quite raw and hard emotionally. It has been the year of the snake, and that's all related with shedding. It's also the end of a year 9 cycle, which is like a year of ending of things, which for me, I feel like the whole of 25 has been about things ending and finishing them and putting bows on them and sending them off with love. Actually, 2025 adds up to the number 9 as well, which is the end again of another cycle. And as we're heading into 2026, it adds up as 10, which is the beginning of a new cycle, but it's also the year of the horse. And the year of the horse is action. So what they're saying is 2024 is get ready, 2025 is get set, and 2026 is go. And that certainly has felt like that for me. 2024, 2025 has definitely been on your marks, get set, and go. And I think 2026 is going to be a year where birth from within is really going to flourish, because I'm stepping into my authenticity and my own power and my own self, knowing that what I have is invaluable to me and to those that I touch. And for those that touch me, the women that have come and shared on the podcast of the good, the bad and the vagina have just brought joy to my heart on our conversations. And I've got some really incredible people lined up for January. On that note, I'm going to do a card to finish my year and see what comes out. Sometimes these cards fly a little message out for me. There we go. I have that one. Laughter. Laughter really is the best medicine. Laughter is like love to your body and your baby. It can help raise your mood and bring joy to you. Watch a funny film or think about a funny time when you laughed so much and remembered the feeling that it gave you. Do something that brings love and laughter to you and your baby. The laughter affirmation. I love to laugh. It brings love and happiness to me and my baby. Do you know what? That is a message I'm going to be bringing into 2026, because 2025 was quite a serious year. I had lots of raw emotions for me. I was dealing with quite a lot of stuff that was there. A really great friend of mine, Chandra, says, when you cry over small things, Tess, it's because everything is just bubbling to the surface and it's all just sitting there. And I cried over lots of silly little things over the year. And I am going to do a lot more laughing in 2026 because it brings joy into the world and the vibration is raised, and that's what I want, a really happy vibration for my new year and for your new year. So on that note, I wish you the very, very best for 2026 as I say goodbye to a year of 2025 of shedding, and I say hello to a year where I step onto this big, strong, gallant horse and ride out with my pride and joy and happiness and laughter. I hope that the same happens for all of you. Wishing you all the biggest love in the world, and I look forward to sharing my journey in 2026 with you all. Big love.